You're listening to WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia, home of Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks, weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on The Key and YouTube.com at Braves Country.
Tom has been a teacher for over 40 years. One day, I think one of the students had asked the question and he didn't remember the answer. I also noticed that he was letting his class out earlier than they were supposed to let out. I was really starting to worry.
Levi and I talked about how it would change our lives, but he was there beside me.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. Visit alz.org/ourstories to learn more. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Hey folks, this is Mark White with The Mark White Show, and you can tune into The Mark White Show every Saturday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. right here on Rock 99 WQEE The Key, the home of Southern sports and talk.
Are you looking for a reliable dental practice that not only cares about your teeth, but is friendly to work with? How about one that offers great deals and new patient promotions? Well, your search is over. Most Valuable Smiles in downtown Eatonton, Georgia is committed to giving you the biggest and brightest smile. Right now, get a $99 new patient special, including x-rays and exam. Maybe you're looking for veneers. Most Valuable Smiles veneer special includes one free veneer with every 5 purchased. Or get that bright white smile you've always wanted by taking advantage of an exclusive $100 off Zoom whitening treatment when you book today. And don't forget that 2022 is almost over. That means most insurance policies will reset by the new year, and to avoid losing that extra money, you need to use it or lose it. Book an appointment today with Most Valuable Smiles in downtown Eatonton to lock in these exclusive deals. Call 706-623-0318 or visit mostvaluablesmiles.com.
Enjoy sun-drenched days, epic stays, and plenty of room to roam in Greater Fort Lauderdale. Our hotels, attractions, and restaurants have taken the Visit Lauderdale's Safe and Clean pledge, so you can relax and explore with confidence. When you're ready for that well-deserved staycation, our 23 miles of golden beaches await. Find wide-open spaces to hike, bike, kayak, and paddleboard. Visit your favorite attractions, then dine out in style in dining rooms or al fresco on waterfront patios. Learn more at sunny.org.
It all starts with just one thing. When recycling, rinse out jars and cans, and avoid recycling wax paper or paper soiled with food. This will reduce recycling contamination. Find tips and more at onethingus.com. What's your one thing?
Hey sports fans, The Key has a brand new show. Braves Country is coming your way weekdays 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern. Drive time on WQEE. Braves Country is a Southern sports talk show with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. We'll be talking the Atlanta Braves and Major League Baseball, along with everything important to sports fans in Braves Country. The SEC, ACC, Big Ten, and the National Football League, and the big sports news of the day. That's Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. Weekdays, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. right here on WQEE The Key, 99.1 FM, and simulcasting on youtube.com/@Braves Country.
At Shell, we know from the time you get up to the time you wrap up,
good night,
there's a lot of meetups, eat-ups, and hurry-ups. So come to Shell and get 3 things done at once. Fill up with Shell V-Power Nitro Plus to help keep your engine running like new. Save up with the Fuel Rewards program and never pay full price for gas again. And snack up with in-store rewards to save even more at the pump. Make the most of the stop you need to make with Shell and engines that continuously use Shell V-Power Nitro Plus premium gasoline. See full terms and conditions at fuelrewards.com.
That's the sound of NyQuil Severe hard at work. NyQuil Severe is the best sleep with a cold medicine. No tossing and turning, just rest and recovery. So you're ready to take on tomorrow. For powerful relief of your worst cold and flu symptoms, try NyQuil Severe. The nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head, best sleep with a cold medicine. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Hey Braves fans, thank you for listening to Braves Country Baseball. Hi, I'm Mac McGee, and we are here to bring you play-by-play, pitch-by-pitch of your Atlanta Braves, bringing you spring training and 2 to 3 games a week all season long. Please like and subscribe today. Braves Country Baseball.
Winter is the perfect time to start planning for your healthy, pest-free spring lawn with True Green, America's #1 lawn care company. True Green's science-based approach and local expertise will help give your lawn the year-round care it needs to be thick and weed-free. Go to truegreen.com. Just call 866-946-5956 or go to truegreen.com today and get a lawn to be proud of.
Hey, sports fans, it's Rod Peterson here, host of The Rod Peterson Show, inviting you to join us daily for 2 hours of Atlanta's funnest sports talk right here on WQEE. I say fun because it is. You've never heard a show like it because we make the listeners a part of the show every day between noon and 2 p.m. Eastern. You'll hear plenty of the best sports talk, including the latest on the Falcons, the Braves, and more. And who knows, you might even hear you. That's the Rod Peterson Show, daily at noon, right here on WQEE 99.1 FM.
We live in a world now that welcomes and nurtures the screwball in all of us. Hey, it's a new decade, people. Time to get a little nutty. Treat yourself to Screwball Peanut Butter Whiskey, a smooth flavor that combines 2 of America's favorites, peanut butter and American whiskey. So no more social awkwardness. Time to embrace who you truly are. Get out there and make friends. And be sure it starts with Screwball Peanut Butter Whiskey. It's available nearly everywhere. Learn more at screwballwhiskey.com. Infidium Spirits. Please enjoy responsibly.
Hey, sports fans. The Key has a brand new show. Braves Country is coming your way weekdays 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern. Drive time on WQEE. Braves Country is a Southern sports talk show with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. We'll be talking the Atlanta Braves and Major League Baseball, along with everything important to sports fans in Braves Country. The SEC, ACC, Big Ten, and the National Football League. And the big sports news of the day. That's Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. Weekdays, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. right here on WQEE, The Key, 99.1 FM. And simulcasting on youtube.com/@Braves Country.
It's the best in sports and entertainment, and get locked in and locked down with Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. with your host, me, Ryan O'Neill, each and every morning, right here with the best in sports and entertainment, all the way from professional sports to college sports to River Dragons hockey and everything in between, including some of the very best local and national guests. It's the Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Monday through Fridays, right here on 99.1 FM WQEE.
You're listening to WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia.
Armchair. You're listening to the Armchair Quarterback Sports Radio, #1 sports station.
Good afternoon, and this is your Armchair Quarterbacks Sports Flash. Here are your lines for Week 18, the final week in the regular season of the National Football League. Buccaneers are a 4.5-point underdog in Atlanta. Falcons are 6-10 on the year. Final game of the season, 1 o'clock kickoff. That game can be seen on Fox. Texans at the Colts. Texans vying for the #1 seed overall. They're a 2.5-point dog on the road, over under 38. Jets and Dolphins. Jets have been eliminated. The Dolphins have not. But both Teddy Bridgewater and Tua Tagovailoa are expected to miss the game. New York, a 1-point favorite, over under 38.5. The Buffalo Bills are a 7.5-point favorite at home against the Patriots. 42.5 is the over. Bears and Vikings. Vikings, now an 8-point favorite on the road. Justin Fields will not play. Panthers and Saints. New Orleans, 3.5-point favorite at home, over under 41.5. And the Steelers, needing a win and some help to get in the playoffs, they host the Browns as a 3-point favorite, over under 40. Chargers are at the Broncos. Chargers say they are playing their starters. Los Angeles, a 3-point favorite on the road, over under 40. Giants at the Eagles. Eagles win, and they get the first-round bye in the NFC East crown. Philly is a 2-touchdown favorite, over under 43. 49ers need a win and some help. They're a 2-touchdown favorite at home against the Cardinals, over under 40. Rams, Seahawks. Seattle needs a win and a Green Bay loss to punch their ticket. The Hawks, a 6.5-point favorite, 41.5 the over-under. And Cowboys and Commanders, Dallas needs a win and a lot of help. The over-under is 41. Lions and Packers, Sunday night game of the week. Packers win and they're in. Lions win and need a Seattle loss. Green Bay is a 4.5-point favorite at home. 49 the over-under in what is expected to be frigid Lambeau. And that's your Armchair Quarterback Sports Flash. Stay tuned for Braves Country right here on WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia, simulcasting on youtube.com at Braves Country.
Armchair.
There's something kind of about a kid that's never played baseball.
We have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, and flat out deceived.
Why did you get so drunk?
You got drunk. I'm just really exhausted.
What's in that cup?
Armor Cokes.
Do you have any idea how important this is? We're trying to save the pub cup. Really? This is what you're doing? This is what you're doing?
Chief, what do you want to do tonight?
The same thing we do every night. Try to take over the world.
106 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it.
Armchair.
YouTube Live.
Radio station.
The radio station you can call your own. Do you know what listeners like about our station?
I like everything. It's always on my radio.
We never stop the music, except for now, when I talk.
You're listening to Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. We're here live weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern, WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key, and simulcasting on youtube.com/at Braves Country. Your first choice for Southern sports. Good afternoon. I'm Mac McGee, and I don't know which, but I know one thing. We got Chris Sims beef with ESPN, Shannon Sharp beef with Skip Bayless, and a whole heck of a lot more. Let's go.
Armchair.
Community Access Channel.
He's the armchair quarterback. He's full of beer and he's full of snacks. He's the all-American man.
Hey, howdy, hi, and how the hell are you? Welcome to Braves Country HD, wherever you stream, and 99.1 FM The Key, as we are rolling here on a Wednesday as we get set for Week 18 of the NFL season. It still looks like, just to give you a quick update, it still looks like that it is what I expected it to be, which is we're not going to get the Bills-Bengals game replayed. I think it's basically just going to, they'll either call it a draw or it just won't be on the record, and your seating is going to come down to home field advantage. Now, they have not officially made that announcement quite yet, but I do expect that to happen in the next 24 to 48 hours as they roll into the season. There was just no way that you were going to be able to play that game and then expect the teams to also play Week 18 unless you played the game like today, maybe Thursday. But then you would probably have to, just to be fair, you'd probably have to let the Bills and Bengals not play until probably Monday. And then whoever did have to play in the first round, you would have to put their games on Sunday. And so it's just too big of a mess, and it really isn't worth it. You're basically, look, sometimes life isn't fair, and sometimes things are bigger than what the seeding is going to be. And we're still monitoring the health of Damar Hamlin, and the prayers are out there. Everybody, it's overwhelming how quickly this country united behind an athlete by someone that they may or may not even be very familiar with, and immediately the outpouring of support. And that's the good thing that came from this. So obviously the bad thing that came from it is the health concern for Hamlin, but we are getting reports that things have improved. Now, he's not out of the woods yet, but he went from yesterday at this time needing 100% health, 100% help breathing to it was 50% last night into this morning. And so, granted, that's not nearly as good news as we're hoping for, but it's trending in the right direction. So we roll on today. We got Steven on the way. We've got Doug on the way. We are starting our Armchair Awards. We do this every single year, and it's a lot of fun. And they are not the typical awards that you would expect, right? We're not giving out the college football player of the year and the end. No. We get a little more creative, and you'll see as it unfolds throughout the week. We have a lot of fun with it. But before we get into anything else, this was absolutely hilarious. This is what I woke up to this morning. One of the first videos that I see is a video of Chris Sims, and he is going off on ESPN. And here's the clip. And here, to set this up, Chris Sims made the comment a few weeks ago. He was with a lot of people in this, that he felt like that the Eagles offense was so good, they don't necessarily need a Jalen Hurts to be very successful, that Gardner Minshew would be able to man the ship. And what he was most upset with, I believe, is that, and I had to edit it because I didn't want to play the whole thing. It's too long. But what he's most upset about is that ESPN, I think it was their Instagram, ESPN didn't at him right after the Dallas game where he put up 34 points and played really well. They added him when he played a poor game, talking about Gardner Minshew, the following week against the Saints. Now, I tend to believe the reason why that happened is that they got more film on what Minshew can and cannot do, what they want to do with them, and the Saints were ready, and the Saints have a very good defense, and that's what happened. But here's his reaction, and this is just classic as he is going back on ESPN. It is censored, so don't worry about that.
Jalen Hurts makes them better. I know that. And like you, Sports Center Instagram, for like putting it out again for like the third time in 3 weeks. Like off. Like seriously. They didn't put it out that in my quote last week after the Cowboys game, but they're going to wait to the game yesterday. That's you, ESPN Sports Center, one more time on the way out.
You wait till it's relevant. You can slam someone. Let's
wait
for the right opportunity.
Do they not make content in there anymore? I mean, stop jocking me, ESPN.
Like this was in the MVP debate context. Like who is most
Invite
valuable
me
to
on
the team?
Sports Center and let's have a conversation if you want to really get into this Sports
Wow.
Center. Invite me on. ESPN, you scared little babies. There you go.
Wow.
They're scared. They don't want any piece of me.
You scared little babies. Now, if you're wondering who Chris Sims is, if you're not familiar with him, first of all, he does most of his content on NBC. So obviously he's willing to drag ESPN because he doesn't work for the company. But he is a former quarterback in college football. What he was most known for probably is his dad. His dad, Phil Sims, was a Super Bowl winning quarterback with the New York Giants. Chris ended up playing for the Texas Longhorns, and though he had a pretty good college career, his NFL career never quite panned out. But he's pretty entertaining, and I could not believe when I saw that, because most of these guys that work for the bigger networks, it doesn't matter if they're working for ESPN or not, they're not going to drag ESPN because they want the opportunity to work for him one day. Well, he just doesn't care. And who knows if there's probably, if you dug deep in this entire thing, you'd probably find out that Chris Sims either was rejected by ESPN or there's something that goes down there where he is not a fan of the company to begin with and doesn't look at it as a lost opportunity. But you still you rarely see it. You rarely see it. I realize his dad works for CBS. He works for NBC. So there's no conflict there. ABC obviously owns ESPN, and Disney owns ESPN. But that was one of the funnier clips that I've seen all week long, probably in the last few weeks, because, like I said, you don't normally see guys go after the ESPNs and the big dogs of the world because they don't want to step on their toes, because they're looking for, hey, eventually I might get a job with them and I don't want to block myself, right? But I still think he was wrong in his assessment, but I understand why he basically said, why did you wait so long? And if you want to debate me, don't just drag me on social media. So there you have that. Other things going on in the world. Derrick Henry was asked about Joshua Dobbs, and Dobbs playing quarterback for the Titans against the Jaguars. Jaguars-Titans Saturday night is for the division, for a playoff berth. And Dobbs, who was signed off the street a few weeks ago, is going to be the starting quarterback. Malik's going to be the backup. Here is Derrick Henry on Dobbs really quick.
Great demeanor, poise, taking control of the huddle, going out there, taking what the defense gives him. And he's had that demeanor since he's got here. I mean, being in there with him this week, he's locked in, and I'm excited for him.
So that was Derrick Henry talking about Dobbs, who is going to be the starting quarterback. And if you read between the tea leaves, if you watch the entire press conference, he never puts down Malik Willis, but you can tell that by him and a couple of other interviews that I've seen over the past week, that there's more of a confidence in Dobbs. I'd say a lot of it has to do with, even though Malik Willis has been there all year and Dobbs was just signed recently off the street, Malik Willis is a kid and probably doesn't command the respect in that huddle that a Joshua Dobbs does. Dobbs obviously used to play for the University of Tennessee, so there's some fandom there for the local Tennessee Titan fans, but also Dobbs has been in the NFL for a few years, primarily with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and so it becomes a fraternity and becomes a situation too. I believe that they can tell the difference in his presence walking in. And look, let's be honest, Vrabel's not going to have a really complex game plan. He just isn't. He's not going to have a complex game plan. He's going to go in there with a fairly vanilla game plan where you're going to try to lean on Derrick Henry. I suspect Derrick Henry will run that football, I'll say 25 times. To me, would be the over-under on how many times he touches the ball. And he'll probably beat that. He'll probably be closer to 30. And there's got to be a discussion in that Tennessee Titan offices of the coaches coming from Vrabel that has got to relay it to everyone involved, not just the offensive coordinator. Says, hey, don't be afraid to use Derrick Henry. But it's also got to be relayed to the defensive coordinator to basically say, hey, we're going to run the football and try to make this game shorter. So play that into your mindset when you're coming out on defense, is that you're going to be able, if Tennessee can move the ball on the ground, they're going to have an advantage of the fact that they're going to keep the ball out of Trevor Lawrence's hands, which is ideal if you're the Titans. Conversely, if you're the Jaguars, what you're going to want to do when you get the ball is you're going to want to go out there and score early and often, because the belief has got to be that Tennessee cannot play an up and down game. Now, the over-under in this game is 40, and I think that's incredibly low. Tennessee's secondary has been an absolute – sieve's not even the right word. It's a dam that is broke, and it broke about week 4 or 5. And it's one of the reasons why Tennessee is in this incredibly long losing streak. But strangely enough, after losing – what have they lost, 6-7 games in a row? Now they have an opportunity on Saturday night. They win and they're in. And I think most fans around the country want to see Jacksonville win. But that doesn't mean that's the right side to bet on. Right now, Tennessee's getting a touchdown. And you've got to figure the Titans are going to have a puncher's chance of winning that game. Because in the past, Henry has dominated Jacksonville on the ground. But the key is going to be to take care of the ball. And if you go back to that first game, that first matchup, Derrick Henry put it on the ground a couple of times, losing one of the fumbles. There were some things that did go Jacksonville's way. You don't figure is going to go their way the second time. Things like the touchdown that was in the back of the end zone that skipped through the hands of the safety that was coming up, that could have at least knocked it down at the end of the half, if not just make a play and pick it off. So there were some poor plays made by Jacksonville and Trevor Lawrence that they got away with, but that doesn't mean that Jacksonville should be the underdog. I just feel like 6 to 7 points is a lot for Jacksonville to be giving up. Even though they're at home and even though they've been playing better football, this is still a rivalry game. It's a divisional game. And for my money, I've got to take the Titans and the points. If I'm getting it at 7, I'm probably buying the hook and taking it up to 7.5. And the over-under is sitting at 40 right now. It will probably go up because it is a Saturday night game, and a lot of folks are going to bet on it. And anytime a lot of folks bet on a ball game, the over always goes up, almost always, unless the weather is just really crazy, but they're not planning for that in Jacksonville on Saturday night. So, with that being said, I would be leaning on the over. If you're looking for a nice little tease, you take the Titans, tease them up to 12.5, 13 points, and you tease the over down to 34. And I think you got a pretty good chance of making hay there. The other game on Saturday, the line for the Raiders has gone up to 10 points. I haven't checked it the last couple hours, but it was up to 10 points earlier, 9.5, 10 points all day long. That is a big get. I believe that the Raiders are going to play a very close game with the Chiefs. The Chiefs are not going to blow them out. It's in Las Vegas. Las Vegas always, the Raiders in general, always play them tight. And Stidham looked pretty good against San Francisco. Why wouldn't he look good against Kansas City? Now, you're probably going to get, I don't think you're going to get as many points because Kansas City now has a book on Stidham. But the bottom line is he played a really good ball game. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Steven's going to join us. We're going to start our armchair awards, talk about the busts and the sleepers of the year that actually cashed in, and a lot more. We'll be back in a flash here on Braves Country HD, wherever you stream, and Braves Country on 99.1 FM The Key in Newton, Georgia. Braves Country, weekdays, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern, 99.1 FM The Key, your first choice for Southern sports talk.
Max, a woman in my section wants to know if we do anything gluten-free. What do I tell her? Tell her she's not allergic to gluten. She's just masking an eating disorder.
Tom has been a teacher for over 40 years. One day, I think one of the students had asked the question and he didn't remember the answer. And I also noticed that he was letting his class out earlier than they were supposed to let out. I was really starting to worry.
Levi and I talked about how it would change our lives, but he was there beside me.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. Visit alz.org/ourstories to learn more. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Hey, Braves fans. Thank you for listening to Braves Country Baseball. Hi, I'm Mac McGee, and we are here to bring you play-by-play, pitch-by-pitch of your Atlanta Braves, bringing you spring training and 2 to 3 games a week all season long. Please like and subscribe today. Braves Country Baseball.
Hi, it's Jamie, Progressive's Employee of the Month, 2 months in a row. Leave a message at the...
Hi, Jamie. It's me, Jamie. I just had a new idea for our song about the Name Your Price tool. So when it's like, tell us what you want to pay, hey, 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 and the trombone goes, blah, 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 and you say, we'll help you find coverage options to fit your budget. Then we just all do finger snaps while a choir goes, savings coming at ya, savings coming at ya. Yes? No? Maybe? Anyway, see you practice tonight. I got new lyrics for the rap break.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
You're listening to Braves Country. Weekdays, 3 to 5 p.m. on WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key. Please like and subscribe today. YouTube.com/@BravesCountry.
At the tone, leave your name and message. I'll get back to you.
This is Shirley from the bank. The answers are no, no, and yes. No, we won't loan you money. No, we won't accept any cosigners. And yes, your account's overdrawn. I get off at 4:30.
Así que me gusta.
Welcome back here on Braves Country. Joining us is Mr. Stephen Troche. Stephen, how are you today? Gotta unmute yourself, Stephen. We'll wait for Stephen to figure out technology, and he is still muted. So
there we go.
There we go.
No, I like you said, I was muted the whole time, but no, I'm doing fantastic. It was a crazy weekend in football. I mean, first thing I want to say is, really I'm praying for Damar Hamlin and hope everything is okay with him. Hope he pulls through. But no, just so much happened this weekend in the championship weekend. It's not really fantasy relevant, but DFS relevant. It's going to be a wild slate on Sunday, and yeah, like I'm ready to kind of go review the season.
I don't know about you, but DFS, I'm going all in on Derrick Henry because they're going to have to lean on him to win. And he always has big games. I mean, he had a relatively small game the last time they played Jacksonville, and he still went over 100 yards.
Yeah.
So I think I know a lot of times he's not worth the price, but I'm definitely going all in on him.
I mean, like for anyone wary of his past performance, like in recent weeks, look what happened to Mike Evans, just week after week after week of, miscatch after miscatch, and then he goes for 10, 200, and 3 touchdowns. Henry is capable of that type of stat line. I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
I also believe that Trevor Lawrence should have a really good week.
Yes.
He should torch that Titan secondary. Now, there's other games that are out there that's huge question marks. We got the news recently that Nathan Peterman's going to be the starter for the Bears. So, oof. Like that. If they're benching him, I'm thinking that they're probably going to end up benching Montgomery. And if he does play, it'll be very minimal. So that tells you right there that they're going to – the line on that game moved from the Vikings being less than a field goal favorite, like around -1, -2, to 8.5 points right before I went on the air.
Yeah, no, like a lot of people I know got the Vikings at -3.5.
I still don't even know if that's a good bet because the Vikings really don't have anything to gain by winning that ball game. But Nathan Peterman's Nathan Peterman, so
yeah,
I got to.
Defense is bad, but
what's
hard
that?
To be Nathan Peterman. So like the Vikings defense has been bad, but it's hard to be Nathan Peterman bad.
Yeah, I can't ever think about Nathan Peterman without thinking about all those interceptions he threw with, was he with the Chargers or was it against the Chargers? I just remember, I think it was against the Chargers with Buffalo. I think that's what it was. But anyways, it's like 5 or 6 interceptions in one game.
Mm-hmm. That was just, I remember that weekend. It was just chaos.
I know it was in San Diego, and I believe he was playing for the Bills. But it might have been reverse. He might have been playing for the Chargers against the Bills, but you can't get that out of your head. And if he's not playing, if Fields isn't playing, I just got to figure that most of their stars they're trying to lose. And the Chargers have already said that they're not planning on resting guys because they want the 5 seed.
Yeah.
I find that a little strange. And that could also be coach speak. The coaches could be going out there saying that, and then 3 plays into the game, you don't see Austin Eckler again, right? But
that is good. Definitely going to happen. It's to some degree on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm more about going after and getting guys that I know want to play. Detroit, even if they're eliminated, the Lions want to beat the Packers and keep them out of the playoffs, right? Seattle is obviously going to want to play.
Dolphins.
The Dolphins, although you're a little weary about starting that receiving core with, it doesn't look like they're going to have they won't have Tua, and it doesn't look like they're going to have Teddy Two Gloves either.
Yeah, it's looking like Skylar Thompson's going to be starting. They actually just signed Mike Glennon to the practice squad today, so
right.
We'll see what comes of that.
I saw the press conference from McDaniel where he was saying all the right things as a coach, but in that same blurb, I see it go across the bottom line, Mike Glennon sign. I'm like, this guy's lying. He's like, because you're not signing Mike Glennon if you think that there's any way in the world that Teddy Bridgewater is going to play.
I agree with you.
And I still think they can win without him because the Jets, there's a good chance that the Jets they haven't announced it yet, but I do not think Mike White's going to play.
Yeah, I think that's really the only chance the Jets have. I mean, they would love to come into Miami and like really upset their chances to get into the playoffs, but
they would. But
it's going to be hard without Mike White.
Mike White was not healthy. He never should have played last Sunday. I think they need to let him rest, and it's either going to be Zach Wilson. And I just don't think you're going to keep throwing him up against the wall. It might be Flacco. And if it's Flacco, my word, what are you going to get out of that? So I'm staying away from any Jet and DFS. All right, let's get into the fantasy awards. This kind of kicks it off for the week, and we'll be doing this all week, having a lot of fun with this. Starting off, the fantasy bust of the year. Give me your first fantasy football bust of the year. Guy that you're like, man, I can't believe I drafted him, or I can't believe he was ranked that high, and bam, nothing.
The player I was highest with the highest exposure on underdog for me, my best balls, was Michael Thomas.
Ugh.
Man, he just absolutely destroyed not only my best balls but a lot of my season-long leagues too. It looked so promising at the beginning.
I remember you going on and on about him preseason, and I really you almost talked me into it. It was at that point I was like, man, I think he's got a point. But I was so worried about Thomas's health that I typically didn't get. If I get any shares, it wasn't many.
Oh no! I mean, for Thomas, it was always about the health. Because he was in that very first game. He had 2 touchdowns on 5 targets. And just on 2022, 3 games, 16 catches, 171 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He was producing while he was on the field, getting targets. He got injured, and then
But the problem is the most important ability is availability, and he is never available. My first guy is Deontay Johnson.
And
it really shouldn't shock us because they did turn to the rookie, and Deontay Johnson is he's forgotten in that offense. Essentially, that offense didn't move much. It's very conservative. It really isn't built for him. But a lot of folks went out there, and I don't even think I've got many shares of him, but I was going through the list this morning. I was like, my word, man, Deontay Johnson. Folks were drafting him fairly high.
Yeah, I think he was going 4th round
in a flex. I want to say 43 overall in flex preseason.
Man, that's just...
Who's your next guy?
I mean, for this next one, I'm not even going to say really one person. I'm just going to kind of say if you didn't have Justin Jefferson or Austin Eckler, or McCaffrey, your first round pick most likely didn't pan out. Najee Harris was an absolute bust. Jonathan Taylor, probably the worst number 1 pick in recent memory. Cooper Kupp got hurt, didn't finish the season. Derrick Henry missed half the season. Cook was just kind of mediocre. I mean, that's just at name after name in the top 15. Really even down to the top 20. I mean, really the only other people in the top 20 that had value were Kelsey, CeeDee Lamb, and Tyreek Hill.
My next guy is going to be Kareem Hunt because And granted, he was a handcuff, but in previous years, Kareem Hunt has really performed, and there's been weeks where you could lean on him, and he did nothing. I mean, nothing. I went back and looked at him. I carried him on one league because I had Chubb, so he didn't really ever hurt me per se. But there were, look, in previous years, there were weeks where you could put him as your flex and get something out of him. He did nothing. I don't know if he's lost his skill or if it's just the transformation of the offense, but I am not getting anywhere close to Kareem Hunt next year.
Yeah, no, it would take for him to be in a like elite scenario where he would be a workhorse or getting at least majority of the carries and just the work, like just the shares in general, for me to have any interest.
Who's your next guy?
In terms of the bust,
yeah,
man, it's got to be Kyle Pitts. There was so much hope for him coming into the season. I mean, just talent-wise, he is up there with one of the most just raw talent tight ends in past 10, 20 years. And it's just with Mariota there and now Desmond Ridder at quarterback, they just don't know how to use him. Like, there's no other way to say it. They have no idea how to make Kyle Pitts an efficient football player. And it's just going as a third overall tight end. It really hurts.
I think it really comes down to they don't have the quarterback play at this point.
Yes.
Now, maybe Ridder will evolve and we'll be able to lean on him next year. He'll come back healthy and whatnot. But yeah, he absolutely slipped my mind. That's a great one. My last one for the bus for this time out, it's got to be Kyler Murray. Oh my God. And like I have Marquise Brown written down, but Marquise Brown was a bust because of Kyler Murray, right? And he's just, we all joked about it during the offseason about him playing too much, was it Fortnite or whatever the heck it is that he's into, and he's not reading the playbook. But man, he is a disaster. Absolute disaster.
Yeah, it was just rough. That whole offense in general.
Ironically, the one league of ours that I'm going to end up winning, that's I got stuck with him, Kyler Murray, and somehow I streamed my way to in the quarterback room to a championship. I believe that's the only league that I had him in. I might have had him in one other, but I know he wasn't on any of my leagues by the end of the season. It had nothing to do with the injury. I dropped him before that. I was like, I'm done with this guy, man. I'm done with seeing him being projected for 20-something points and coming out and laying 12 out there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, who is your the best fantasy sleepers of the year?
Is there any other answer but Josh Jacobs? I mean, he was the epitome of the middle round running back that everybody just was like staying away from with a 10-foot pole. And he just, I think that there really is something to it with just players in a contract year, not even just in football, in every sport. But man, he just came out with a vengeance and lit the NFL on fire. What was it, like 3-4 weeks ago, that performance in Seattle where he had that 85-yard touchdown in overtime?
Oh,
capped off like a 50-point performance.
Yeah, and granted, he had other weeks, but that was his week. I mean, that one was the one that you're like, if I'm going up against Josh Jacobs this week, I have no shot of winning this game.
I mean, yeah, he carried so many teams for weeks upon weeks, but that, like, with how close that was to the playoffs and how big of a performance that was, he single-handedly changed the outcomes of so many leagues across the world.
You know, to me, Ken Walker has to be up there. And honestly, if you're talking about the playoff run, Cam Akers has to be in that conversation because he was terrible all year long because you couldn't even roster him. And then out of nowhere, the last 3 or 4 weeks, he started catching on again and was averaging around 20 points an outing, right? Actually, I streamed him in a couple of leagues for the championship. But the guy that I've got to go with, if I get one sleeper, it's got to be Jared Goff because Goff was just unreal this year. And it's not that shocking. He's had those games in the past, but this Detroit offense, if they can keep everybody together next year, this Detroit offense is a dangerous, dangerous offense.
Oh yeah, just injecting Jameson Williams into that mix. Oh, I mean, I'm envious of Sean. There's a lot to be hopeful for in Detroit.
If you can get Jameson Williams going, and you look at the fact, I'm assuming they can probably find a way to keep Chark. And then, of course, you've got the Sun God already. And it looks like that when they traded away Hawkinson, it hasn't really hurt them at the tight end output. And hopefully by next year, DeAndre Swift is actually healthy and can touch the ball more. But man, that offense, ironically, it's going to be Campbell's ability to coach defenses that's going to be the difference maker.
Oh, I completely agree.
All right, we got another for the Armchair Awards. I thought this would be kind of fun to talk about. I don't know how many you grabbed, but you know, 1, 2, 3 of them, whatever. But the award is I wish I would have bet. And it means, looking back on it, man, I wish I would have known what I know now. I would have laid some heavy hay out in Vegas on. So what's your first one?
Najee Harris, his preseason rushing total, I believe it was like the over-under was 1,200 yards. And I mean, that was just, that's about what he had last year. And he did that basically on a full workhorse workload, being super efficient. And for him to try to replicate that was going to be an extremely tough task as it is. But you add into the fact that it was Mitch Trubisky to start the season with that offensive line, it just that should have been a no-brainer to smash the under.
Yeah, mine's going to be Jamal Williams. What he did on the touchdown, I think he's at 15 now, somewhere in that neighborhood. And he tied, I don't believe he's broken it yet, but I know he tied Barry Sanders' touchdown record for a season. Jamal Williams, wow. He wasn't even supposed to be the guy touching the ball at the end. It was supposed to be DeAndre Swift.
Oh, I know. It's just, he just got, that was always the report coming out of Green Bay that he was just like the ultimate player that the coach wants on the field. He's always going to do everything right. He blocks well. He knows he's just a fantastic football player. And it spilled over into Detroit. He's just a player that, like Campbell, is just afraid to take off the field. And it's just coming at Swift's detriment.
And assuming he stays in Detroit next year, he makes me nervous to go out and draft Swift again.
Oh, 100%.
Because I was so in on Swift at the beginning of the year because you knew the Lions had the offensive line. You knew Swift was talented, but he got just a little banged up as opposed to just sitting him for a few weeks, which would have been ideal for everybody involved. Instead, they played him through the injury, and you never knew who you could start. But, man, Jamal Williams, unbelievable year. You got another one?
We should have. I don't think anyone saw it coming to this degree, but man, just smashing the overs on all everything Tyreek Hill related. He just. There was high hopes for him to come in as a number one receiver, but man, he single-handedly set so many just records and for the Dolphins and almost broke some single season records. Just in terms of the NFL.
Think about what he would have done if Tua could have stayed healthy.
I was about to say the exact same thing. And he was going at that end of the second, beginning of the third round. He was going after, CeeDee Lamb, Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs. I'm pretty sure you'd want him over every single one of those.
Yeah, absolutely. If Tua could have stayed healthy, if they can get a healthy year out of Tyreek Hill, out of Tua next year, Tyreek Hill might break some all-time records for a season. But the biggest question is going to be, what is the future of Tua with all these concussions in such a short period of time? The worry is going to be going in if you're drafting a team is the young man going to be able to play football for an entire season? And that's a big if. And if you end up with, Teddy Two Gloves out there as your backup, I feel like the Dolphins may have to at least go out there and really consider either drafting a quarterback later in the draft to see if they can develop them so that when Tua is not able to play, they've got, player X, or they might have to go out there in free agency and see if they can get, basically like a Gardner Minshew or someone of that ilk, so that when Tua does go down, it's not the end of the world.
No, yeah, it's the Dolphins have a real tough choice coming up this offseason, as I believe they have to exercise their 5th-year option or not. And it's, man, Tua's he's shown he has the ability to hang in the league. It's just that with his 3rd concussion this year, I think there's starting to be some real doubts about his future. But I mean, all of that aside, I'm a firm believer in unless you have some actually no, I take that back. You draft a quarterback every single year. The Patriots did it 10 years in a row. Even though they still had Brady. I don't know if it was just them thinking he was going to retire or
he's happy when they knew that they had Mac Jones, and you can tell that Belichick believes in Mac Jones, right? I'm with you. I think the Dolphins need to draft a quarterback. It doesn't have to be a high draft pick. You don't have to go insane. But this is going to be a pretty deep quarterback class. And you've got to, in today's league, especially with the concussion protocols and whatnot, guys that aren't even really banged up, but they have to miss. I'm not saying you have to have 2 quarterbacks on your, but you got to have 1.5, right? You got to have that guy that he can step in. And when he steps in, it's not, oh my God, our offense looks nothing like it did last week with Tua, right?
Yeah, I am not the most anywhere near the most versed in this draft class or just the players in general. But you're talking about a late round quarterback for the Dolphins. Imagine Max Duggan on that team.
I would even take a Cam Rising out of Utah, right?
Yeah.
A guy who's just a gritty, quarterback that I don't think is going to be top of the barrel in the overall scheme when you talk about the NFL draft. But if I can find a kid, and there's so many of them, obviously we'll get into it as weeks go on, but if I can find a kid that I like his moxie when he's in a game, almost like a Jordan Travis, but he's not going to be in this year's draft, right? But a guy that you're like, dude, he's gritty, and you can't count him out. If I'm the Dolphins, I'm drafting one, and I'm probably signing one off the street. I'm going to sign a guy who couldn't quite make it somewhere else, and I'm going to see if he can stick in Miami, because Teddy Bridgewater's not going to be the answer. When Bridgewater comes in, the offense absolutely falls apart. My only other wish I would have bet would be, who saw the Phillies going to the World Series? If you could have banged that back in May or June, when they were just absolute most folks didn't even think they were going to make the playoffs, including me. And I watch baseball every day, and I did not think they were going to be able to keep it together. I thought the Phillies were going to fall apart so badly that I expected the other wild card to come out of either the Central or the West. And somehow they put it together, and then they just caught fire.
Yeah, no, that was just a remarkable run. I was even questioning whether they were going to get in over the Brewers at the end of the season, but
yeah, the Brewers. I'm trying to think of who the other team was. I guess the Brewers were the main one, because San Diego did get in. At one point, you kind of felt like the Giants had a shot, but they fell apart. And I think the Giants once again made big mistakes not trading at the deadline.
Yeah.
This is 2 times in the last 3 or 4 years that the Giants have held on to their players, and I think they do it because they don't want their fan base to think they've given up. But they've held on to these guys, and you could have done something with them. I think about 3-4 years back when they did it with Bumgarner, and they were so far out of the playoff race. Then they got a little hot in August, and they held on, but then they fizzled out in September and missed the wild card by 5 to 7 games that year, right?
Yeah, no, are you really trying to tell me that you couldn't have got some value out of Brandon Belt? Any playoff team would have loved him.
Rodon! I can't believe they didn't trade Carlos Rodon. I get it; they're going to get the Yankees first round pick. Okay, whoopity do. You're the Giants. You need to turn Rodon into 2 or 3 prospects and one that's ready to play this year.
Yeah,
that's it's got to be the philosophy at the front office that says we'd rather have a first round pick than to have a guy who's already somewhat developed. It's got to be, because this is at least the second time in the last 3 or 4 years that they've done this. I think they've actually done it more than that.
Yeah.
Not every year is going to be 2012 where you come out of nowhere and beat the Rangers for the World Series. What is your walk-off for the day, sir?
Walk-off. I actually had one more bet. I'll use that as my walk-off. It should have seemed obvious to bet Aaron Judge for to lead the Major League in home runs. I think he was between like plus 800 to plus 1200 on a lot of sites. And I mean, that's the kind of bet you throw about 3 or 4 names at. Aaron Judge should have been like the top of the list. Because like we've seen like the immense power he has, and if he's healthy, like he had the potential to do it. And
can you imagine if you would have grabbed that a couple of weeks in the season? Because remember, he got off to a really slow start.
Mm-hmm.
So he probably, I'm guessing, but I would say if he was 800 to 1200 at the season beginning, in the middle of April, you probably could have got him at like 1600.
Yeah, man, that would have actually been really good. But the only other walk-off is just if you're playing DFS this weekend, play it light, and it's because it is going to be madness.
Take advantage of the teams that you figure are going to. Don't jump on the teams that you think are got something to play for when they don't. The Cowboys is the number one thing I would say. Be careful about starting your Cowboys this weekend because they're going to be scoreboard watching, and the Eagles are probably going to jump out on the Giants really early. And when it happens, all the Cowboys are coming off the field.
Yeah, I agree there.
All right, brother. We'll see you next week. Great job, and good luck in your DFS.
Thank you. Good luck, everybody.
We'll be back in a flash here on Braves Country HD. Keep it locked in here on 99.1 FM. Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. Weekdays, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern, 99.1 FM The Key, your first choice for Southern sports talk. Dixie Handle Company, 5 generations of the Strickland family have produced quality hardwood farm and garden tools, wooden shutters, and custom furniture. This small business has been owned and operated since 1992 and ships to customers across the world. If you're looking for the highest quality tool handles, Dixie Handle Company is your place. Every item is hand-picked to your specifications. If it's made of wood, they do it. Call now, 931-722-3395. That's 931-722-3395. Or go online to dixiehandle.com. The Dixie Handle Company. Welcome to Craftsmanship, a proud sponsor of Braves Country Baseball.
It all starts with just one thing. When recycling, rinse out jars and cans, and avoid recycling wax paper or paper soiled with food. This will reduce recycling contamination. Find tips and more at onethingus.com. What's your one thing?
Whenever I bring home Entenmann's Little Bites muffins...
Little Bites?
That's right, sweetie. Can you just give Mommy a minute?
I love Little Bites!
I know you do, but we're doing a commercial right now, okay?
Got it.
As I was saying, whenever I bring home you-know-what, you-know-who gets pretty excited. And so do I. Little Bites muffins are made with real ingredients, no high-fructose corn syrup, and are baked moist and delicious.
I love Little Bites!
Here you go.
Yes!
Entenmann's Little Bites Muffin, the perfect portion of happiness.
You're not sick tonight, are you? Good. Your tongue's going to be hanging out. Tell him to throw up on his own time.
You're listening to WQEE 99.1 FM, home of Braves Country, weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern, and YouTube.com at Braves Country. Braves Country taking you all the way to the top of the 5 o'clock hour. Doug's on the way. We're going to give out some more armchair awards. We'll have fun with that. And a lot of stuff to get into today, including found this pretty interesting. Ian Rappaport, the NFL Network, was asked about Harbaugh and whether or not he thought he was leaving Michigan to go to the NFL. Now, I've been saying for the longest time that I've got to see it to believe it. I think Harbaugh uses this to get himself a raise, especially because he had yet another really good year. Now, remember last year, he was in heavy talks, and it was heavily rumored he was going to be the new head coach for the Minnesota Vikings. And then basically in the 11th hour, it all fell apart. And one of the things was Harbaugh wanted more control of the team. At least that's what was reported. So with all that being said, if he really was thinking about leaving last year, maybe there is something to it. But I still feel like he would just be an absolute fool. The money that he's making at Michigan, he can be there for as long as he wants to, and they're gonna hold him in the same regard as Bo Schembechler by the time he's gone. You get yourself in the playoffs enough times, you'll find a way to get yourself through to the next round, maybe even win a championship. If you're a Michigan fan, I know the sting of losing Harbaugh, of losing the semifinal game hurts, but you can't overreact. Because the simple fact of the matter was, before Harbaugh showed up, Michigan had become irrelevant. So I do believe that Michigan's going to try everything that they can to keep him. And though the job is a little more attractive now than it was then when he took over, they're still not going to have, they still don't have the facilities. They don't have the resources to go out. They're not Texas A&M, where they can find the new hot young coach and pay him away from another program, like Texas A&M did with Jimbo Fisher. That's not Michigan. They're not chopped liver by any stretch of the imagination, but they're not going to throw that kind of money at a guy. And plus, I think some schools have learned their lesson on that. I'd be willing to think that the next guy that comes after, or the next school that comes after a guy like Norvell, he's going to get the backing of his university to try to keep him. If you think they want to go backwards in Tallahassee again, there's no way. They will back up the truck. And so they would either, if they lost Harbaugh, they would have to promote within, but he's probably going to take a lot of his guys with him to the NFL if he were to leave. Now, here is what Rappaport had to say on Harbaugh to the NFL.
I would expect him to explore getting an NFL job. Expect him to consider it. I do not know, and I've spoken to, I feel like everyone involved. No one has actually said whether or not Harbaugh is truly interested or whether just wants an absolute bucket of money from Michigan. I don't know. But he is going about it as if he is interested in the NFL.
So there you have that, John Harbaugh. And Rappaport's got his finger on the pulse of things like this more than just about anybody. But even with that being said, I'm not buying that it's going to happen in a manner in which the franchises they're talking about that he's talking to at this point aren't really franchises that I necessarily would want to leave Michigan for. I mean, he's talking about going to Denver, going to Carolina. And though Denver has a rich history, that's a mess in Denver. You're stuck with Russell Wilson. And unless you are absolutely 100% convinced that Russell Wilson can get turned around, you don't want that job. you would have to look at that tape and see something in Russell Wilson that nobody else sees right now. And you got to be right because you're going all in on him. Because he still has 4 years on that deal. There's really no way of getting out of the Russell Wilson deal unless you find a trade partner. And who is trading for Russell Wilson after what he did this year? It is an embarrassment. So if you're Harbaugh, I really think you're at a point where if you really want to go to the NFL, you could probably wait and cherry pick a much better gig between that or Carolina. And by the way, Carolina, they need to go ahead and hire within because what Wilkes has done as head coach in absence of Matt Rule is beyond phenomenal. I get it. They're going to miss the playoffs just barely, but the fact that he got what he got out of that team, if he does not get the head coaching job for the Carolina Panthers, there ought to be some kind of investigation. It is just, it's unreal. I'm not saying the Panthers have to back the truck up and give him a 5-year deal. I'm saying you give him an option. You give him an opportunity. And you probably don't have to invest a whole lot because he's not on anybody's short list for coaches. But if I'm the Panthers, I give him a 2 or 3 year deal. If it's a 3-year deal, it's not for a lot of money. If it's a 2-year deal, maybe it's for a little more. With obviously a chance for it to turn into much longer. So I don't even know why they would be contemplating Harbaugh in Carolina. But conversely, in Denver, I don't know why Harbaugh would be contemplating going to Denver. There's other franchises out there that over the next few years will lose their coach, and I would step in there. You know, what happens the next time the Cowboys get knocked out too early in the playoffs? You think Jerry Jones, who's getting up there in age, is going to continue to watch a rebuild, no matter how much he thinks Mike McCarthy might be a good coach? I don't. And so you're going to look at that over the next few years. If he really wants to go to the NFL between this year and next year, there's going to be a better opportunity than Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos or Carolina Panthers and Sam Darnold. And the reason why I bring those up is because those are the two teams that have been heavily rumored. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick break. When we come back, we've got Doug on the way, and we've also got to get into the Skip and Shannon thing. I didn't want to get into it in this block because I felt like we weren't going to have enough time. If you haven't heard this, you don't want to go anywhere. Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp, it is very obvious they are not getting along. We will be back in a flash here on Braves Country HD, wherever you stream, in Braves Country on 99.1 FM, The Key. You're listening to WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia.
Armchair. You're listening to the Armchair Quarterback Sports Radio, #1 sports station.
Good afternoon, and this is your Armchair Quarterbacks Sports Flash. Here are your lines for Week 18. The final week in the regular season of the National Football League. Buccaneers are a 4.5-point underdog in Atlanta. Falcons are 6-10 on the year. Final game of the season, 1 o'clock kickoff. That game can be seen on Fox. Texans at the Colts. Texans vying for the #1 seed overall. They're a 2.5-point dog on the road, over under 38. Jets and Dolphins. Jets have been eliminated. The Dolphins have not. But both Teddy Bridgewater and Tua Tagovailoa are expected to miss the game. New York, a 1-point favorite, over under 38.5. The Buffalo Bills are a 7.5-point favorite at home against the Patriots. 42.5 is the over. Bears and Vikings. Vikings, now an 8-point favorite on the road. Justin Fields will not play. Panthers and Saints. New Orleans, 3.5-point favorite at home, over under 41.5. And the Steelers, needing a win and some help to get in the playoffs, they host the Browns as a 3-point favorite, over under 40. Chargers are at the Broncos. Chargers say they are playing their starters. Los Angeles, a 3-point favorite on the road, over under 40. Giants at the Eagles. Eagles win, and they get the first round bye in the NFC East crown. Philly is a 2-touchdown favorite, over under 43. 49ers need a win and some help. They're a 2-touchdown favorite at home against the Cardinals, over under 40. Rams Seahawks. Seattle needs a win and a Green Bay loss to punch their ticket. The Hawks, a 6.5-point favorite, 41.5 the over under. And Cowboys and Commanders. Dallas needs a win and a lot of help. The over under is 41. Lions and Packers Sunday night game of the week. Packers win and they're in. Lions win and need a Seattle loss. Green Bay is a 4.5-point favorite at home, 49 the over-under in what is expected to be frigid Lambeau. And that's your Armchair Quarterback Sports Flash. Stay tuned for Braves Country right here on WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia, simulcasting on youtube.com at Braves Country.
Shenyang, a performance that truly matters to every one of us, is coming to the Columbus River Center for the Performing Arts, January 17th, one night only. Shenyang brings 5,000 years of civilization live on stage through choreographed dance, music combining Western and Chinese instruments in an animated backdrop. Come and see it at least once in your lifetime. Tickets at shenyang.com/GA.
Here's good news. There's still a need for hundreds of thousands of cybersecurity professionals in the U.S. right now. And My Computer Career is training people to help meet the demand. No IT experience? No problem. Take the free career evaluation today. Start your new life as an IT pro in as little as 4 months. Grants covering up to 53% of the cost are available to those who qualify. It's not rocket science. It's mycomputercareer.edu.
Enjoy sun-drenched days, epic stays, and plenty of room to roam in Greater Fort Lauderdale. Our hotels, attractions, and restaurants have taken the Visit Lauderdale's Safe and Clean pledge so you can relax and explore with confidence. When you're ready for that well-deserved staycation, our 23 miles of golden beaches await. Find wide-open spaces to hike, bike, kayak, and paddleboard. Visit your favorite attractions, then dine out in style in dining rooms or al fresco on waterfront patios. Learn more at sunny.org.
Whenever I bring home Entenmann's Little Bites muffins...
Little Bites?
That's right, sweetie. Can you just give Mommy a minute?
I love Little Bites.
I know you do, but we're doing a commercial right now, okay?
Got it.
As I was saying, whenever I bring home you-know-what, you-know-who gets pretty excited. And so do I. Little Bites muffins are made with real ingredients, no high-fructose corn syrup, and are baked moist and delicious.
I love Little Bites.
Here you go.
Yes.
Entenmann's Little Bites muffins. The perfect portion of happiness.
What are you thinking about? Marriage? Family? Well, they're prisons. Man-made prisons. You're doing time. You get up in the morning, she's there. You go to sleep at night, she's there. Yeah, and you can forget about watching TV while you're eating because it's dinner time. And you know what you do at dinner? What? You talk about your day. What was your day today? Did you have a good day today or a bad day today? Well, what kind of day was it? Well, I don't know. How about you? How was your day?
Armchair.
Can I get another cigarette, please? Can I get another cigarette, please? Yeah, I know I live to regret it. Just give me another cigarette, please.
Welcome back. Braves Country HD. We are taking you the top of the hour. Doug is on the way. We're going to be giving out some more armchair awards. Have a lot of fun with that. See, Maverick telling us that the Guardians have acquired 4 players in minor league deals. One of them was old Tuki Toussaint. I liked old Tuki. I really hated to see him go. Hope he does well. You know, some of these players, you wonder sometimes if your team, whether it's the Braves or not, whoever your team may be, if they made mistakes letting guys go. And typically, I will say, when the Braves get rid of a guy, they've usually given them enough time and enough chances But there are guys that you wonder, guys like Tuki Toussaint, that we saw a lot of potential in. And another guy that comes to mind who is going to have an opportunity to try to make the team this year. But what about a couple of years ago before Huascar Ynoa broke his hand on that dugout bench in Milwaukee? And what he meant to that staff at the time, and he has never regained that form. He's been in the bullpen. He's been down on the farm in the rotation. And if you haven't followed it, his ERA has been atrocious. But it's a guy that you're like, man, how could you fallen so far when it seemed like that he had finally gotten the whole thing together? Just immature thing that he did where he punched the bench because he was mad of what had happened in the previous half inning. It was a competitive thing. I always call it going all Paul O'Neill about it because Paul O'Neill was always shattering bats in the dugouts and acting a fool. I've never understood what they think that is going to accomplish in the big picture. You're basically just going to look like an idiot. And that's what happened. He broke his hand and it hasn't been the same. But he's one of the guys for Atlanta that's going to have an opportunity for that fifth starting position. I think it's more likely it ends up being Ian Anderson or Bryce Elder, but he's going to have the opportunity. And if he can't crack his way into the rotation, he'll have an opportunity to possibly be in the bullpen, but not with a 5.6 ERA. And you only get so many years in this game. And if you squander them, I mean, he's basically squandered the last 2 seasons. I really hope Huascar Ynoa gets it together. Because what a even if you can't get him back to this rotation, what a formidable piece he would be in the bullpen. You know, you're already going to be loaded at the left-handed position. When you look at Dylan Lee and you look at, a lot of people have forgotten about the fact early in the offseason that they acquired Colby Allard. He's a lefty. And then, of course, they got Luke Gay over from the Yankees recently. By the way, I've got really bad weather here, so for some reason I lose you. That's why. I do think I have a way to chime back in, but it's really, really ugly here. But yeah, it's going to be a really difficult road back for guys like Ynoa, but man, he had so much. If they could just get his fastball and the changeup working again with just those 2 pitches, he was devastating. Typically what happened with Ynoa is by the time he hit around the 3rd time through the lineup, he was a little iffy. But the first 2 times through the lineups, he was nasty. He could at least be an opener. Okay, let's go ahead and get into the Skip and Shannon. Skip Bayless, I brought it up yesterday. He gave an insensitive tweet, and everybody noticed that Shannon Sharp did not show up for work the next day. And Shannon Sharp was in the middle of basically explaining why he didn't come to work. And then once again, Skip Bayless interrupted him. So here's the clip, and then we'll get into the actual tweet. But Skip Bayless kind of stepped in his mess kit and is supposed to just staying out of the way. Just staying out of the way and let Shannon have his say. He had to cut him off. Here's the clip. And this is from this morning.
There's been a lot of speculation of why I wasn't on air yesterday, and I won't get into speculation or conjecture, innuendo, but I will say this. In watching that game on Monday night, what happened to DeMar Hamlin struck me a little different. As a brotherhood in the NFL, when injuries happen, when we know injuries are a part of the game, I've seen guys suffer ACLs and Achilles tear, but I've never seen anybody have to be revived and fight for their life on the field. So it struck me a little differently because I remember seeing my brother paralyzed on the field temporarily, and he was able to regain focus. Skip tweeted something, and although I disagree with the tweet, and hopefully Skip would take it down, but I didn't want it.
Well, time out. I'm not going to take it down because I stand by what I tweeted.
Skip, let me finish.
All right. Okay.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
Go ahead. Let's go, Jen.
Okay.
I mean, I cannot even get through a monologue without you interrupting me. You could have came back, Skip.
Well, I thought,
Skip, just let.
I didn't know you were going to bring up.
No, I was just going to say, Skip. I didn't want to yesterday to get into a situation where DeMar Hamlin was the issue. We should have been talking about him and not get into your tweet. That's what I was going to do. But you can't even let me finish my opening monologue without you interrupting.
Okay. I was under the impression you weren't going to bring this up because nobody here had a problem with that tweet.
No. Clearly, the bosses wanted you to offer explanation. So clearly, somebody.
No, they did not have. Nobody.
Let's go, Jen.
Okay, so that was the back and forth between the two. And if you're not familiar with what Sterling's talking about, Shannon Sharp, his brother, who played for the Green Bay Packers and had a scary injury that essentially ended his career. He later went on and did work on ESPN on their NFL show. And I was really disappointed when he kind of just left the broadcasting. He was really good. And nothing against Sterling, but he was much better than Sterling. But he played for Green Bay from 1988 to 1994, and he was on that Hall of Fame type of trajectory. You know, he was all-timer trajectory. He was a 5-time Pro Bowler, 3-team All-Pro, and 2 times NFL receiving touchdowns leader in 92 and 94. And then he had this scary injury where he was partially paralyzed, and though it was momentarily, scared the hell out of him, right? And so that's basically what Shannon was trying to say, was that I think Shannon realistically understood that what Skip Bayless tweeted, and what he tweeted, I'll read it one more time. No doubt the NFL is considering postponing the rest of this game, but how? This is late in the season. A game of this magnitude is crucial to the regular season outcome, ... which suddenly seems so relevant. So a lot of people don't read that last part, which suddenly seems so relevant. But at the same token, I'm just telling you from a common sense standpoint, you keep your mouth shut on this one. You don't mention any of this, because are you just trying to essentially, and now it's got 164 million views, so that's why he's not taking it down. That's why Skip Bayless isn't taking it down. 164 million views. 78,000 quote tweets and 42,000 retweets. 4,200 retweets. And it's funny. So there's other people that I follow that I see say stuff like, I won't call her out by name, but she's a famous tweeter, and she says, I'm disgusted this many people like this tweet. Well, my first comment to her would be, but you commented on it. You commented on it. You're still bringing a lot of attention to it. So don't act as though you're holier than thou because you didn't like it. Just because you didn't smash the like doesn't mean that you're not involved in getting him. People who follow you who may not follow sports very well would not have shown up at his Twitter without her commenting. And so there was a lot of tweets like, I hope they fire you, et cetera, et cetera. I never expected them to fire him. Because if you read the whole tweet, in theory, he didn't say anything that crazy. But it's one of those things, you just like read the room. And it never should have been tweeted. And Shannon Sharp decided not to show up for work the next day. Now, whether or not that was appropriate or not, that's really up to Shannon and his bosses, and between him and Skip, realistically. I'm sure Skip understood what happened, and maybe in theory, Shannon was basically saying, I needed a day to calm down because I was going to say or do something that I would regret. And it's funny that in the middle of Shannon trying to explain it, Skip's got to go with, well, I'm not taking the tweet down. He didn't ask you if you were. And sometimes when you make a mistake, you just have to kind of sit there and eat the sandwich that's being fed you. And you're going to have to sit there and listen to it and take your lumps and move on. But Skip, I think what people find most disturbing about this entire thing, Skip still acts as though he did nothing wrong. And the simple act of tweeting that was wrong. And he did it because he knew the sports world was watching, and he did it because he wanted to get the attention. Everything he has ever done is calculated. Going all the way back to his coverage of the Dallas Cowboys, which folks in that circle still say to this day that he did a lot of underhanded things. But that's the memo. That's it. I'm not going to beat the drum about this all day long, but I did feel like that had to be addressed, because the fact that he would do what he did and then it's almost like he doubled down on it is just absurd. You don't always have to be right. And it's funny how he said, well, nobody had a problem with it. They had to have had a problem with it, because yesterday we talked about how Skip, he apologized without saying, I'm sorry. It was kind of a half-hearted apology. But somebody talked to him and said, you got to go clarify what you meant. Somebody got it in his ear. They didn't just say, well, that's good, man. Well, good for you. They knew he needed to at least address what he meant by it. And here's the thing. If he would have said that the next day, there wouldn't be near this outrage, but he also wouldn't have had this much attention. And that's what Skip Bayless has always lived on. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Doug joins us. We're going to give out some more armchair awards and talk about the news of the day. We'll be back in a flash here on Braves Country HD.
What about the assistants on the staff right now? The guys that were there in training camp, the guys that were there early in the morning and late at night, the guys that have gone through the first 6 weeks in that building. Don't they deserve the opportunity for an owner to hire a coach who's never been an assistant at the college level or the pro level, and overseeing a lot of candidates that are qualified for that job, as we see in Steve Wilkes, an opportunity to build a resume? It's a disgrace to the coaching profession. And regardless how this thing plays out, what happened in Indianapolis is a travesty. What about the assistants on the staff right now?
I might audible. If I audible, I'll use Omaha! Red Polly! Blue Poncho! Do it! Rambo! Give me Kershaw here, Kershaw!
You're listening to the Armchair Quarterback Sports Radio.
Japan! Richmond, New York! Richmond, Florida! Sally, Buffalo! Check! Hey, Short Ox! Luda Raiders! Red Lion! Omaha! Time out!
Hey, can I tell you one thing? That's 3 holding penalties on one football team in a quarter and a half. That ain't funny.
This portion of the show is being brought to you by Ed's Almost Good Beer. Remember, Ed's Almost Good Beer was brewed in God's country when God wasn't looking.
It all starts with just one thing. When recycling, rinse out jars and cans, and avoid recycling wax paper or paper soiled with food. This will reduce recycling contamination. Find tips and more at onethingus.com. What's your one thing?
The Armchair Quarterback's on YouTube Live. We cover Braves baseball and the rest of Major League Baseball every day. Subscribe and like us today. Your first choice for sports talk live from the First Coast.
Whenever I bring home Entenmann's Little Bites muffins...
Little Bites?
That's right, sweetie. Can you just give Mommy a minute?
I love Little Bites.
I know you do, but we're doing a commercial right now, okay?
Got it.
As I was saying, whenever I bring home you-know-what, you-know-who gets pretty excited. And so do I. Little Bites muffins are made with real ingredients, no high-fructose corn syrup, and are baked moist and delicious.
I love Little Bites.
Here you go.
Yes.
Entenmann's Little Bites muffins. The perfect portion of happiness.
You're listening to WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia. Want to chime in? Give us a call. 678-960-9700. That's 678-960-9700.
He's been buying beer since August, running hot and running cold. And 30 friends are on alert, that's all the den'll hold. Cause he's the armchair quarterback. He's full of beer and he's full of snacks. He's the all-American man.
Doug joining us here just past 4:20. Smoke them if you got them. Tell Doug that. Doug, how are you?
Doing good, doing good.
Man, we're 5-6 weeks away from pitchers and catchers reporting.
Yeah.
I am so ready for some baseball to come back into our lives.
I know. Already doing my spreadsheets for fantasy.
Now, I gotta ask you something before we get into the Armchair Awards. Were you not impressed by what Stidham did on the field for your Raiders this past weekend?
I have to admit that was shockingly one of the most pleasant quarterback games I've seen. I don't have words for it. He looked fantastic. He looks like he should have been the starter from the beginning of the season.
I am floored.
Yeah.
It's not that shocking that a guy that started with the Patriots organization now looks like a bona fide starter in the NFL. And obviously we'll have to see how he plays this week, because you see these backups have the good week, and then the next week the defenses adjust, and then they're not the same. But, man, what a start, especially against that San Francisco defense.
He made them look like nothing. I mean, he just made them look like they've been lying to everybody all season.
Yeah, thankfully, I was going up against the 49ers defense in fantasy.
So was I.
I saw the matchup, and I kind of cringed. And I was like, oh, my God, Stidham and the Raiders are going to go up against the 49ers, and I need some points, and this is not looking good. And then every time I checked in, touchdown. Stidham, for people who didn't catch the game, he did throw 2 interceptions, but 365 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 23 of 34.
Mm-hmm. Right. And both those interceptions were kind of fluky interceptions too. One came off the Bosa's helmet, and the other one was a weird pop-up play. Was a swatted up pop-up play, so wasn't a real kind of interception. So
I know they're never going to do it, but I've heard the argument before, and I'm really not against it. They should come up with a statistic that when you have a fluky interception, that it is a team turnover and not necessarily an individual interception.
Yeah, like you do in baseball with earned runs.
Essentially, yes. Now, obviously, the argument would be, well, in baseball, it's a base hit. A base hit is a base hit, whether you hit it hard or you blooped it off the bat. But when you talk about interceptions, it really affects a quarterback's quarterback rating. I've just always felt like there should be a separate statistic. Now, someone would have to go back through and comb through every game that was on television for the last 60 years because if you're going to change the statistic, unless you just say going forward, we're going to do this.
You could just do it going forward.
But typically what they do is they say, well, then we've got to get accurate. We got to go back and see how many interceptions that Dan Marino and John Elway and Joe Montana were tipped at the line, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm fine with that. You paid Roger Goodell $50 million a year, whatever the heck it is he paid. You can't pay some intern to just do that for the next – he'd probably get knocked out in the next couple of years.
Yeah. It's not a vital statistic, so you can take your time on it.
Heck, send me some money. I'll do
it. Yeah, send me some money. I'll help you.
There was I don't remember what game it was recently, but someone brought it up, and I was like, I agree with that. I can't remember who it was, but it was a quarterback that typically has people have jumped all over, and he had 1 or 2 interceptions in the game. And the guy talking about it said, well, what's going to happen. People didn't watch the game. Were like, oh, he threw another couple interceptions. He sucks. But if you watch the game, you'll know that it was rookie. There was an interception this past weekend. I'm trying to remember if that was college or pro, but the ball was scooped and flipped into the air, and the safety picked the ball off. But that had nothing to do with it being a poor pass. I mean, if the guy just lets it fall to the ground, it's not getting picked off. It was an acrobatic move to even touch the ball. He scooped it up, flipped it in the air, and it's going to go down in the books as an interception. I wish I could remember who that was, but I remember going, oh, this is a perfect example that should be a team turnover.
Yeah.
All right, let's get back into it. By the way, looks like Bryce Wilson has been sent from the Pirates to the Brewers. Of course, we remember him from Atlanta Braves fame.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be interesting to see what they do with him. I bet you they put him in the bullpen.
I was thinking the same thing. Yep.
Maverick says it was the Detroit Lions. Maybe it was. I can't remember. I just remember it happening, and I was going, oh, this is garbage. It probably was, because it probably was Lions Bears, because I had a lot of shares of the quarterbacks this weekend, so I bet you it had something to do with it. Did you win any of your championships?
Yes, I did. As it stands now, I am once again the Armchair Quarterback Trophy League champion.
You know who's screwed in this whole deal?
Yeah.
Is it our buddy the fireman, who is planning on making a comeback here on the show in the near future, but he had the best record in all of our in 3 of our 4 leagues that he's in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he tells me going into Monday night that he needs like 8 points, something like that, to win. He had Stephon Diggs. I was like, oh, dude, you're gonna get that. Don't worry about that. As long as he doesn't get injured, something goofy doesn't happen. He got about 4 points, and then the game was canceled, and it doesn't look like that game's going to get replayed. And Yahoo is yet to have an official call on it, but I would assume when the NFL officially says that game's not going to be played, then everything's going to be in play at that point.
Yeah, Yahoo sent out a big memo yesterday citing what they will and won't do, and they said, yeah, they're just waiting. Like you just said, they said they'll officially go with whatever the NFL rule book says or whatever. But that's the thing about this. The NFL isn't even following its own rules and how they're handling this game. That's the thing that kind of scratches my head. They either had 1 or 2 choices according to their own rules. Either, of course, they weren't going to play the game that night, of course, and everybody's talked about that. Either they did it that night, or they had till today to have that game done by their own rule book, by the official rules of how they were supposed to handle this.
There was no way they could play the game.
Yes, or just forget the game and it's finished.
Right. So it's not as easy as saying, hey, guys, we'll play Wednesday. So that was out.
Well, I know, but I'm saying, officially on the books, that's what they were supposed to do. That's what they were supposed to do by the way it was originally written. And the precedent, the last time a player almost died on the field, they finished the game right there and then. I mean, granted, there was only a minute and a half left in the game in the fourth quarter, but in that case, the player died right there in the field.
Different world too. You didn't have
true.
Or the national television audience that's watching this unfold and who are going to be dragging you for continuing to play that game.
Oh no, I understand that. I mean, I understand why they did. So, I mean, they're just going to have to. They're not going to do anything about it. It's a scratch, I guess, is what they're going to do.
Well,
I don't know when.
Time when it happened, I said the next day here on the show, and I'll stick by it. What they need to do is just act like that game was never played, right?
Yep.
And that Buffalo and Cincinnati were just going to play. They're going to play a 16-game schedule. Everyone else will have a 17-game schedule. And however chips fall on the seeding, it is what it is. It's a freak accident. It's something that's just not – it's just one of those things that you got to learn how to roll with the punches and say, hey, it is what it is. You know, and it's a little bit of a shame because Buffalo probably – well, they at least have a shot at home field advantage, and they probably won't get it now. But Buffalo becomes big Las Vegas Raiders fans at 4:30 Eastern. Say you just scratch it, and it is what it is. If Kansas City goes out and wins, they'll get the 1 seed.
Yep.
If they lose, Buffalo gets a chance to go out there on Sunday, and if they win, they get the 1 seed. The thing is kind of lost in this whole thing is if Cincinnati wins that game, and they were up 7-3.
Yes.
And I still believe that they were going to win that game. This has nothing to do with the terrible injury. But let's just pretend like we're talking about football at this point. I had Cincinnati winning that game. And I think Cincinnati would have won. And I do believe that the Raiders have a decent shot at making the game interesting on Saturday.
Yeah, if Stidham comes out and plays anywhere close to what he did against the Rams, yeah, you get ready for an all-night shootout with that game. And that's depending if they have the Chiefs actually put in their starters.
Oh, I think they will because they want the bye.
Well, there was talk that they might not, but that's just talk.
I mean, I don't know who would have said that because that's just wildly inaccurate. There's no reason why you wouldn't play your players when the bye is right in front of you, right? Because you have plenty of time to rest the guys next week. But the team that gets screwed out of this, but obviously DeMar Hamlin's health is much more important. But the team, in theory, if you're just looking from the football aspect, if Cincinnati wins that game against Buffalo, and Cincinnati wins this coming weekend, and Kansas City loses to Vegas, Cincinnati would have been the 1 seed.
Yes.
And rightfully so, because they would have beaten Buffalo and they already beat Kansas City.
Yep.
But I think the players are going to be, and the fans are going to be very understanding of what happened. Just say, hey, it is what it is. And we'll just adjust. And I expect Buffalo to be very emotional on Sunday when the game kicks off. And I expect them to roll the Patriots. I think the Jets are going to upset Miami in Miami. And that lines up for the Pittsburgh Steelers with the win in your in scenario against Cleveland.
Yep. That's something they could very well do.
I would be willing to say that I don't know what the odds are to bet on that scenario, but I think Buffalo has owned New England. And they're going to be, not only is Buffalo going to be very emotional going into that game, but let Kansas City lose Saturday, that game becomes enormous, and it's in Buffalo. How if Kansas City beats the Raiders, how in the world does New England walk into Buffalo and win that game? The last time that they played, they didn't look like they were playing the same sport. The last 2 times.
Yeah.
When they played them in the playoffs last year, that was an embarrassment. And if you remember, they put that on Saturday night. And that game was over right after kickoff.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I fully expect that the Raiders are going to give them a go this weekend, and if they do beat the Chiefs, then that Patriots Bill game, then that begins the dominoes.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be a different situation if Kansas City wins, because if Kansas City wins, the Bills might rest some players. I still don't know how many players they would have to rest to make the Patriots competitive against the Bills. And the Dolphins, man, they're down to their third string quarterback, and you take the passing game away from the Dolphins, they're not going to be able to keep up with the Jets. That Jets defense, Jets may not score a lot of points if Zach Wilson's out there playing quarterback, but that defense is going to shut them down.
Yeah, that's just going to be that's a spoiler game written all over. That's a divisional hatred. The Jets are going to do everything defensively to make sure that the Dolphins don't make the playoffs. I feel very sorry for the Dolphins this weekend, just as I feel very sorry for New England, because the Bills, like everything you said, but they're going to come out. They're going to come out playing angry, and they're a good football team on top of it. What they're going to do, I think it's going to be ugly, and it's going to take a long time. It's going to be a very brutal beating that they're going to get.
So that kind of gets us to we'll do the armchair awards here in a second, but let's go ahead and get into picks. What is your lock of the week?
It's ironic that you said it, because that Bills New England game is my lock of the week.
So you're going to take the Bills?
Yep.
I think it's right now it's -7.5.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Stupid underdogs. I'm going to go ahead and give you mine. I've been talking about it for the last day and a half. I think Las Vegas is going to win, and I really do. I need a W. Bobby took the lead once again. It's going to be hanging in the balance. But I'm looking at the fact that they're at home in this game. Stidham looked pretty good. And the last game that they played against the Chiefs in Kansas City came down to 30-29. They lost the game, but man, not by much.
No, and like I said, if it wasn't for a dopey official call, that game could be completely different.
I was on the fence. I was going to take the Titans, but I'm going to go ahead and say that I'm going to go ahead and take the Raiders, and hopefully they get the W, and that opens up the door for the Bills. Because I mean, how do you not pull for the Bills now? What is your stupid underdog?
Well, I was going to go out on a limb. I don't know if anybody's picked it yet, but I was going to go off the NFL and actually take TCU in the national championship game.
Okay. 12-point underdogs.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's an interesting one.
That's a fascinating game, because I think people don't understand TCU. TCU is just this kind of weird kind of team of destiny, and I love how they prepare as a team. They're as much I know it's an odd way of saying it, but they are a mental team. They figure out other teams and know how to execute offensively against almost everybody they've played this season. They adapt to whoever they're playing against, and they find a way to win. And I think Georgia better be really, really careful, because I think they're going to lose. I think Georgia's going to come in there and act like they've already won. You know, God bless you, Georgia, but TCU is a dangerous, dangerous team.
It's going to come down to the quarterback play of TCU. And Ohio State showed that you can move the ball, but there's so many holes in that TCU defense. I can't take that. I could see them covering the spread, but to win the game, man, it's going to have to be not to mention the fact, I think everything would have to fall TCU's way. I think they would have to win the turnover battle by a pretty decent margin. I'm talking like a 4-2, 4-1 type of margin, right?
Granted, yep.
I think all the little things would have to fall into place for them. Like when they punt, they somehow cough and corner it in out of the end zone. It's just everything's going to – Georgia's so loaded and so talented.
I know.
I'll tell you what, not many people gave them a chance to beat Michigan, and they went out there and beat them.
They figured, and then that was my only point. That's kind of the intangible and why I'm going this way. It's just TCU as a team figures out ways to beat other teams, even teams that really on paper are better than they are. So that's why I'm saying this. Georgia just play the game that they've been playing all season. Any mistake or any type of downplay, TCU will take advantage of it.
All right, so let's go ahead and take a really quick break. When we come back, we're going to hit up the fantasy awards and a little more news. We'll be back in about 90 seconds.
Shenyang, a performance that truly matters to every one of us, is coming to the Columbus River Center for the Performing Arts, January 17th, one night only. Shenyang brings 5,000 years of civilization live on stage through choreographed dance, music combining Western and Chinese instruments in an animated backdrop. Come and see it at least once in your lifetime. Tickets at shenyang.com/GA.
Hey, sports fans. Weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern. Drive time on WQEE. Braves Country is a Southern sports talk show with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. That's Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. Weekdays, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. right here on WQEE 99.1 FM.
It's the best in sports and entertainment, and get locked in and locked down with Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. with your host, me, Ryan O'Neill, each and every morning, right here with the best in sports and entertainment, all the way from professional sports to college sports to River Dragons hockey and everything in between, including some of the very best local and national guests. It's the Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Monday through Friday, right here on 99.1 FM WQEE.
Welcome back. Doug and McGee taking you all the way here to the top of the 5 o'clock hour where Sports Map Radio will follow. First Name Sports. Remember to get your morning started tomorrow at 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Rhino Radio Penitentiary comes your way weekday 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Rod Peterson Show from noon to 2. Sports Beat from 2 to 3. Of course, Braves Country weekdays 3 to 5. The Jaguars-Titans game, that line is very interesting to me, Doug, because first of all, I think the over-under is incredibly low. I talked about this earlier. It's 40 at this point. Now, the line is going back down, so if you want to take advantage of it, you might need to grab it. It was up to 7 earlier today. I got it on the hook with 7.5. It's now dropped back down to 6. And I think the market will even it out. I still don't think Jacksonville. I think Jacksonville's the better team, and they'll probably win, especially considering the fact that it's at home.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think they're necessarily. I think the market has overcorrected itself, and they're going off the Titans' losing streak. But there's a lot of factors involved in that, and they're going to get better quarterback play from Dobbs. They don't have to. He doesn't have to go out and throw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. He just has to not turn the ball over and hit the open man, which is something that was not being done at all by Malik Willis. And for folks who haven't followed it, Ryan Tannehill's done. He was put on the IR last week. So what is your prediction in that game? Jaguars-Titans.
I think the Titans will win 2017. That's my prediction. I think the Titans are going to win this football game.
You know, I don't even know if I want the Titans to win because they're not going to do anything in the playoffs. And they'd probably be better off, honestly, losing, get a higher draft pick, let everyone else just get ready for the next year. And the Jaguars, I think, would actually benefit quite a bit from making the playoffs, get some playoff experience for Taylor Lawrence and ETN and all the rest.
Mm-hmm.
Strangely enough, and these are two of my favorite teams, but I'm essentially a Titans fan down deep. I think I'm pulling for Jacksonville to win this thing.
Interesting.
And I go back and forth every day. It depends on what time you ask me of the day, who am I pulling for in this game?
Right.
But I think I just think it's better for both franchises if Jacksonville wins. Tennessee is a mash unit right now. They weren't great when they were healthy earlier in the year, but now they are just put together with bandages. And that secondary, if they end up at the 4 seed and have to play the Chargers at the 5 seed, Justin Herbert's going to roast that team.
It's true. It's true.
I actually think it would be more impressive and fun to see Trevor Lawrence versus Justin Herbert than whatever mash unit Tennessee rolls out there against the Chargers. So Eric has, by the way, agreed to a deal with the Cubs. News coming across. I saw that being rumored for quite some time, past couple of days, but it is finally official.
Yeah.
Cubs are only going to have to pay $720, and San Diego's got to pay the rest. Obviously, the Padres had that big contract, and they sent him to Boston, and a part of that deal was that the Padres are going to pay. I don't understand how the Padres are just made of money. Because outside the San Diego region, have you ever met a Padre fan?
No, I don't think I've met a Padre fan my entire life.
I lived there for a little while. I lived in San Diego for about a summer, so I've got a reason why I've met Padre fans. But outside of that, I don't recall meeting a Padre fan.
No, I haven't.
Not a national brand, but man, they are just. And the reason why I bring that up is they still have to pay $38 million of that deal. But look at all the other guys they got to pay. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah, it is. How they stay under the luxury tax, I don't know.
Meanwhile, back at the ranch, the Braves, one of the most popular teams in the country, is over here clipping coupons every. I mean, jeez. All right, let's go ahead and get into the Armchair Awards. Who did you go with your fantasy busts of the year?
Oh, fantasy busts. Let's start with Jonathan Taylor. The man was made out of glass all year long. Did absolutely nothing for me or for anybody who had him. And he ended up, how many times has he been on the IR this season? This last time, I think, was his second time around. So he did nothing for me this year.
And
that's my first one.
When he was healthy, he wasn't that good.
And even, exactly, that was my next point. Even when he could play, it wasn't spectacular. Outside of the
commitment in the mix with him. Like the Colts were a disaster.
Oh, the Colts, I know. Another one. I think another bust.
How about Hunter Renfrow?
Hunter Renfrow.
What a bust he was.
Yeah, but there's a lot, I give him a little bit of a break.
Because you're a Raider fan is why you're giving him a break.
No. Trust me. I'll talk about that in a second in my closing. What's going on in Vegas? There's a little bit more, but he was a bust. I agree with you. I totally agree with you.
When you compare what he did last year and where he was projected this year, he was top 50 in flex projections.
Yeah,
it's a huge bust. Who's your next guy?
My next guy is going to be oh my god, I can't. Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon did absolutely nothing for me.
Nah, he wasn't that bad. When he was healthy, he had some pretty good games.
Yeah, it's true. But overall, as being my feature back in that one league, he was a bust for me. He hurt me more than he helped me, I guess. I'm not saying he's an overall bust, but for me personally, he was a bust.
I'm going to go with Russell Wilson.
Oh, yeah. Amen.
Ugh.
Amen.
What an absolute dumpster fire he was. Who's your next guy?
Alvin Kamara.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Just a dumpster fire on the field. It was just hard to watch. It was hard to watch.
Yeah, that was and what's funny is his market went up and down during the offseason because you kept expecting him to get suspended for the altercation in the bar fight.
Mm-hmm.
And when he didn't, everyone rushed to grab him, and then he ended up not doing any. But I honestly now he's still a bust because it doesn't matter if it was your fault or not, you're still a bust.
Yep.
But I'd say a lot of that had to do with the fact that, man, the Saints have got to clean shop with that coaching staff. They don't know what they're doing. That offense would have been so much more explosive with Winston under center. I don't know what in the world they're doing. My next guy that I would put up there's got to be Allen Robinson. What a bust he was. Everyone was, oh, man, he's going to L.A. Look out. Let's go. First game of the season against the Bills, and he was a no-show, and that was and it was like, it's just the first game. Don't panic. No, that was the beginning of the end. Who's your next guy?
Now, this is going to be a strange one because he was brilliant last week, but Mike Evans, I thought, was a bust this season at wide receiver.
Yeah. If you held on to him and started him and you've made it as far as the fantasy championship, then that's great. But yes, his season sucked.
Yeah, that was like being shackled to a fantasy corpse all season with him. That was horrible.
It's just like, Elijah Moore had a couple of games here and there, but he was a bust.
Yeah,
he's an absolute bust. And I don't think it was his fault. I think it was the quarterback play of the Jets, but that doesn't mean that he wasn't a bust. Who are some of your best sleepers of the year?
One of the big surprises here, we were talking about him recently. I was thinking about him after watching him Sunday. I think Jared Goff was a surprise this season.
Yeah, I picked him in the first hour. I thought he was he's a big reason why I won the Reggae Auction League.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was streaming quarterbacks in that one.
Yeah.
I can't remember if that's the league that I had Kyler Murray or if that's the league that I had Tom Brady, but regardless, I had one of those bum quarterbacks, and I ended up having to stream golf, and I streamed golf in a lot of leagues.
Yep, so did I.
One of my favorite sleepers, and it took him a while to get going because he really didn't take off until Deshaun Watson got behind the center. But man, Amari Cooper had himself a finish.
Yes.
Who's your next guy?
Next guy, believe it or not, Josh Jacobs. We came into this season acting like he wasn't going to be nothing at running back. And just about the middle part of the season, he just took off. And if you had him, I think he's a reason that if you won a championship, that's why you won the championship. Because he's been brilliant the last 6 to 8 weeks, and now he's the leading rusher in the NFL.
And assuming he comes back next year with Vegas, he'll be a top 10 pick.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's move on to I wish I would have bet. Let's start this off with I wish I would have bet the Braves to win the division on June 1st. They were 10.5 out, and you would have been winner, chicken dinner if you'd have put the money on the Braves.
Yep.
What's yours?
I wish I had taken the bet. I had taken the underdog pick where I should have taken South Carolina to beat Tennessee, but I chickened out on it at the last second.
I wish I would have bet TCU to get to the national title game.
Woo! Good. Yeah.
Woo! Way back in August, they gave a list of teams that had lesser odds to pay out if they made the national title game than TCU. And I wish I had it in front of me, but it was basically the bums of the bums. And man, what TCU, even if they don't win against Georgia, what they've done has been phenomenal. What's your next one?
My next one was just the recent game too. I should have picked it. I wish I had picked TCU to beat Michigan.
I wish I'd have taken Florida State to win. You know their over-under was 6 games this year in Vegas? Recently. 6 games. They won 10. You'd have been cruising right past it in the middle of October. Now, next year, it'll be 10, and everyone will lose money because they'll end up with 9 or whatever. What is your walk-off for the day, sir?
All right, my walk-off, we've been the Hamlin injury thing. But one thing that's happened recently, we talked about it, and it's gotten worse. This thing with Derek Carr. I have to speak to it. I'm speaking to every Raiders fan that might be listening. That owner of our team lied to us. We were lied to. They lied to Devontae Adams. The only reason they kept Carr all season was to get Devontae Adams on this football team. They had no intention of ever starting that man. That's why they put him in that contract situation like he was. And then rigging, as far as I'm concerned, this dumb play calling it was all just basically, I hate to say it, but it was a tinfoil conspiracy to get rid of Carr. They had never intention of bringing him back. So to me, the Raiders organization right now, they lied to me. They basically lied to everyone. And the fact that you treated Derek Carr the way, no, he's not the greatest quarterback, but he deserved a lot better than what he got.
I will agree with the last part of that statement. I don't know about the tinfoil conspiracy, but I will agree with the last part of the statement that he deserved better. It'll be interesting to see where he ends up, but I'll tell you what, they might have found themselves a starter instead of him. And
they did, and you know what? I think either the Commanders found themselves a starter when I do believe he'll. We
got to get out with them tomorrow, 3 to 5 here. Keep it locked in here on the Key. Sportsback Radio is next with First Name Sports for all the guys and gals behind Armchair Quarterback Radio and Braves Country HD. I'm Mac McGee. We'll see you mañana.
Goodbye, sweetheart. Well, it's time to go. We're back tomorrow with another show. Well, unless we're fired, we'll talk to you then. Goodbye, sweetheart. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Guys and gals, it's time to go. We'll see you on the next show.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
Thanks for listening to Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks on 99.1 FM WQEE, The Key in Noonan, Georgia, and simulcasting on youtube.com/@Braves Country. Braves Country comes your way weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern. Please follow, like, and subscribe today. Armchair Quarterback Radio, your first choice for Southern sports.
Something of the 5th of September. Something of the 5th of September. She said a lot that I can't remember. Something of the 5th. Can I get another cigarette, please? Can I get another cigarette, please? Yeah, I know I live to regret it. Just give me another cigarette, please.
You're listening to WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia.
Are you looking for a reliable dental practice that not only cares about your teeth, but is friendly to work with? How about one that offers great deals